Welcome to News Around. Before we begin, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to News Around, and consider pressing the join button to support independent reporting. Your engagement helps us reach more viewers and keeps these insider stories coming. Now, the story that has set Istanbul's cultural circles and social feeds alight. What unfolded recently along the Bosphorus was a sequence of intimate, unadvertised moments whose gravity only became apparent once the images reached the public eye. After a period of mutual silence that observers labeled definitive and final, the two actors who dominated the year's headlines were observed leaving a discreet dining venue in the Gökberk quarter. There was nothing theatrical about the departure. It resembled the furtive exit of two individuals who wished to avoid attention. Yet one particular gesture, fleeting, almost involuntary, transformed speculation into a national conversation: the brief, unmistakable clasping of hands. The handhold, captured by a camera that had waited just long enough, did not feature the awkward recoil of estrangement. Instead, it registered as an emblem of reluctance giving way to a fragile, tentative connection. That single photograph cascaded across networks and comment threads. The public reaction was not merely curiosity but a ready interpretation. Many concluded that affection previously thought extinguished might be flickering anew. Columnists and talk show hosts parsed the image for nuance, fans assembled timelines of likes and follows, and informal investigators compared timestamps and locations to reconstruct what, until then, had been carefully hidden. Contrary to the neat narratives that tabloids prefer, those close to the actors insist the apparent rapprochement was neither sudden nor simplistic. The catalyst was not an orchestrated meeting nor a contrived reunion staged for optics, but rather a moment of shared vulnerability. In the most private of settings, a hospital corridor where grief is a form of language, one of the two was coping with the loss of a beloved pet. The bereavement pierced the temporary armor that had kept them apart. In response, the other arrived without fanfare, motivated by empathy rather than spectacle. Those familiar with the couple's inner circle say that the visible gestures reflected an undercurrent of private conversations that had been unfolding over several weeks. Messages, calls, and carefully mediated meetings that passed under the radar of paparazzi and strangers gradually reconstructed a bridge between two people who had once been too proud to admit their mistakes. The arc of reconciliation rarely follows a straight line, a production collaborator told us. It involves acknowledging pain, accepting responsibility, and, above all, relearning one another. According to this witness, both parties engaged in moments of frankness, admissions of error, apologies that were specific rather than generic, and an attempt to articulate boundaries that might protect the relationship from repeating past patterns. Not surprisingly, the public narrative accelerated when signs of renewed social media contact emerged. A modest sequence of interactions, a like here, a follow there, a comment removed minutes later, sufficed to generate a lexicon of hope among followers. Within hours, hashtags rose into trending lists, and digital communities rallied around the possibility of a second chance. Commenters ranged from ardent optimists who hailed the reunion as destiny fulfilled to wary skeptics who urged caution and privacy. Here at News Around we invite you to reflect. Do you think grief has the power to dissolve old resentments and revive dormant affections? Share your perspective in the comments, and if you find value in the coverage, remember to subscribe and click the join button so we can continue offering careful, contextual reporting on these personal stories. Both want to avoid repeating the errors of their previous chapter, a longtime friend observed. This is not about reverting to past comforts, it's about building something deliberately smaller and more durable. The friend stressed that patience has become a central value in their renewed dynamic. Slow conversations, shared therapy or counseling sessions, and mutual agreements about the level of disclosure that will be tolerated. Small artifacts have taken on outsized meaning among observers. One such token, a jacket seen on Cemre as she left an apartment in the early hours, has been parsed as evidence of physical proximity and possible emotional warmth. Later that same day, Gökberk published an ephemeral message on his social feed that read, in essence, that endings sometimes disguise nascent commencements. Taken together, these discrete signals fueled an interpretive frenzy. Yet insiders caution against oculatory conclusions. Objects can be borrowed, and stories can be misread. The significance, they say, lies less in sartorial choices than in the qualitative change in how the two interact. More empathy, less defensiveness, more listening, fewer public retorts. Professionals who worked with the pair during their last joint project recall a complex tableau. Undeniable on-screen chemistry juxtaposed with behind-the-scenes tensions that occasionally spilled into off-camera friction. The external environment, critics, fans, and rumor mills. Exacerbated interpersonal vulnerabilities, according to multiple crew members. Still, numerous colleagues argue that chemistry of the kind they displayed on set does not evaporate overnight. It morphs and resurfaces, sometimes under the influence of life's quieter tragedies. This interpretation has informed much of the current discourse. Rather than a simplistic narrative of reunion for convenience, many see what is unfolding as an emotional realignment catalyzed by events that stripped away pretension. For the moment, both parties have elected to maintain public reticence. There has been neither an official announcement nor a blow-by-blow chronicle of developments. The absence of confirmation, however, has not prevented well-meaning confidants from articulating hopes and warnings. Those closest emphasize that reconciliation is an ongoing process. Forgiveness, once extended, must be accompanied by changed behaviors that demonstrate its sincerity. One senior associate suggested that the future of their relationship will likely hinge on whether they can establish new rituals that protect intimacy against the corrosive effects of public life. Examples offered include private check-ins, deliberate media blackouts when personal matters are at stake, and a shared commitment to honest communication without intermediaries. This episode underscores the complicated role of audiences in the private lives of public figures. Fans do not merely observe. Through likes, comments, and trending hashtags, they become co-authors of modern celebrity narratives. Their hopes, and sometimes their judgments, shape the emotional terrain celebrities must navigate. News Around invites you, then, to consider responsibility. When does public interest become intrusion? How should fans balance their enthusiasm with respect for personal boundaries? Tell us, would you want to know every detail if someone you admired reconciled? Or would you prefer that they keep such moments private? Drop your answer in the comments and remember to hit like and subscribe to News Around if you value journalism that probes these ethical tensions. What distinguishes this developing story from tabloid fare is its underlying motif, compassion as the impetus for rapprochement. The loss that precipitated the reunion was not a calculated maneuver but a human tragedy that exposed shared tenderness. When confronted with raw sorrow, both parties reportedly acted with humility and care rather than with performative gestures. That authenticity, observers suggest, may form the bedrock of any sustainable revival. It's worth noting that those who have watched them from the inside emphasize durability over drama. The present attitude, they say, is not one of impulsive romanticism but of deliberate cultivation. Mending what was frayed, acknowledging past harms, and committing to a different rhythm of partnership. No definitive resolution has been reached in the public domain. What we have instead is a sequence of carefully placed signals, tempered by restraint, that invite optimism without promising certainty. The next chapters will likely unfold away from headlines, in quiet conversations and routine gestures that rarely make the evening news. As reporters and as an audience, our role is to observe with compassion and to refrain from forcing narratives upon people grappling with private pain. For now, the image of two hands briefly entwined in Gökberk serves as a reminder that human connections, even those frayed by pride and circumstance, can sometimes be repaired by acts of empathy. Thank you for reading this in-depth account. If you appreciated our careful approach to a sensitive subject, please like, subscribe, and press the join button to back independent coverage of entertainment stories that matter. We want to hear from you. Do you believe this renewal represents genuine reconciliation or merely a transient solace? Leave your thoughts below and contribute to a civil conversation. Until next time, this is News Around, keeping an attentive eye on the moments where fame, grief, and intimacy intersect.